Hello, and welcome to the Lantern. Today we'll be looking at ways to read the aggressiveness of your enemies in lane. And yes, I did say in lane, so this will only apply to the laning phase. Now, there will be two concepts of psychology that we're going to use in order to work with this. One of them will be operant conditioning, which is the kind of trial and error basis that people will judge for how they can behave. And it's based off of whether or not the outcome was good or bad for them. If the outcome was good for them when they tried a certain behavior, then they'll be more likely to do it. If the outcome was bad, then they'll be less likely to do it. And the other concept is going to be a social mindset, which is going to pertain to how the community, how the pro players will judge a certain champion or a certain matchup, and you can use that information in order to kind of determine how aggressive you can be and how aggressive your enemy will be. Now, the exact definition of aggressiveness for this video is going to be the point in which your enemy laner will feel comfortable trying to engage on you and trying to go for a trade. This can be used to judge how far up you can position yourself without the potential of dying or losing to a trade. It works best on champions with high sustain or crowd control, as well as known counter matchups. But it will require some demonstration that you are ahead in the lane, especially from levels 1 to 3, you want to test your strength. If you see that you have an advantage, then you can play more aggressive. If you see they have a disadvantage, then you'll want to be a little more passive, and try and read the enemy in a way to learn when you can farm and when you can try and roam around. Now, it's important to remember that if you are ahead, you do not have to kill your enemy to be successful. As long as they're losing minions, you are still getting a lead in gold. And it's also better to hold on to your crowd control abilities rather than just tossing them around with the potential of missing and wasting cooldown and mana. But there are times that you will want to periodically throw around your crowd control spells or your main damaging spells in order to remind the enemy that if they want to try and harass you, you can still hurt them incredibly fast. And there are 3 good times in which you want to use your spells. One is going to be just as their minion wave is finishing dying, since you will have a minion advantage to them where if they want to fight back, they'll be fighting in a minion wave, in which they will definitely lose even if you miss your spells. And the other time is if you can see all of their allies on some other part of the map nowhere near you. That way you know that it's a simple 1v1 trade, and as long as you are confident that you can win that, you can assert your dominance in that regard. And finally, it's going to be if you see the enemy wasting their spells in order to farm minions. A good way to try and entice the enemy to use spells in order to farm the wave is after you clear the wave, you back off into a bush where they can't see you and they will think you are fully backed away, in which then they'll try to quickly clear the wave in order to make it so that it resets towards the center. And right after that, that's when you know that their spells aren't on cooldown since early game. Most people don't have over 10% CDR, and you know that the average champion, except for someone like, let's say, Karthus or Rise, who have low cooldown abilities from level 1, will generally have cooldown somewhere between 9 and 20 seconds. It gives you free time to harass that you are guaranteed to probably win as long as you actually land your abilities, in which then that will make the enemy remember that they cannot fight you in the idea of that operant conditioning. The outcome of it was negative for them, so they'll be less likely to attempt it. Another good way to go for this is that each time the enemy goes for a minion, and it is safe for you to do this, harass them. It'll also go by the operant conditioning idea that they are constantly losing a certain trade-off of either they get free damage, or they fight you and lose minions, in which then they'll just learn to back off and try and be patient. And you'll also want to keep yourself warded early on, especially with pink wards, in order to keep an eye for the enemy jungler or other laners, in order to judge how your enemy laner will play based on the appearance of their allies to said lane. Now, there are a few ways in which people will react. Some people will go immediately aggressive as soon as their allies come within a certain range, and you can judge that range to be either far enough away that you can just freely walk out, or that range can be close enough that the moments that you will see them, you'll want to just immediately run. Or there are also plenty of people that will wait and actually just reposition in order to cut you off, and that way you can tell that if the enemy is starting to position themselves in a way where if an enemy were to appear, that you would be cut off from being able to run away. That's where you'll just simply want to move yourself parallel to how the enemy is moving in order to make them forced away from that position to cut you off. And this will be nice because as long as you're warded early game, you can read that pattern and then use said pattern in order to determine when there aren't wards harass when it is safe for you to be stepping forward or not. Now, if you are being pushed in, you'll want to be patient, let some minions go, and wait until the wave's in front of your tower and freeze it. I'm not going to describe exactly how to freeze a wave in this video. I may do it in a future video, but for now, if you want to learn how to freeze, you'll have to look it up somewhere else. And while the wave is frozen, you'll want to read what the enemy does. If they continue trying to zone you, then you can try and get some free harass on them if you are ranged, or you can try and just absorb experience in order to make it so that you are staying relevant within the game. And you can also, if the enemy is letting you farm, just simply use that advantage to keep the wave frozen for as long as possible, making it so you can still get some gold, and just be wary for a potential tower dive if the enemy is trying to harass you while you get minions. Because yes, it can be worth to get some gold, depending on what type of champion you are. If you're a full tank, then experience should be just enough for you. But if you are a bruiser or an assassin, or some other type of champion, you will more than likely need gold more than you'll need just experience. So you'll want to go ahead and allow some of those trades to happen. Especially if you have self-sustain, then it's really easy for you to just take the harass and then use the minions to keep yourself at a healthy level of HP. And now let's look at the concept of the social mindset. Now, social mindset, again, is going to be the idea that the community has about a certain champion or matchup. There are ways you can judge this. It's going to be based off of how the pro players and how Reddit, League of Legends forums, and YouTube basically describe a champion. Most people will use these as a basis in order to judge the champion's power. Even if the champion actually has a low win rate, you can also use pick and ban rates in order to get the idea of how powerful a champion is perceived. And if you happen to pick a perceived champion, the enemy will be more than likely to allow you to be stepping forward in the lane while backing off because they are afraid, thinking you are extremely powerful even if you're not, and then you'll just get free minions, free harass, and all that. But if they have a powerful champion that is actually weak against the champion you have, they may still try and play aggressive, thinking that their champion is overpowered and thinking that they have an advantage even if it's in a counter matchup. Meaning that they will go in and you can easily win a trade, and that will put you in a potential kill lead, or you'll just have a one trade in which then you can zone them away and get free minions. And as long as you keep this pattern early, they will then learn from the operant conditioning ideas that they cannot win against you, in which then you can use that in the later parts of the laning phase in order to build up your lead extremely fast and just snowball off it. That's about all I have for this video. Thank you very much to everyone who is watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed or did not enjoy, leave a dislike, and let me know what type of ideas within League you would like to hear about next related to psychology. And as always, I will see you on the Rift.